Alright, welcome back to Cooking with Legs. No cooking today, at least not for this. I'll be cooking something for the family later, but we've already done a video for that, so there's no point in showing you twice. Nobody likes a rerun, unless you're into Nickelodeon. Knives though, I've figured to take the chance to answer some questions that I've gotten. Mostly people looking for their first chef's knife, or they haven't had much other experience with knives. Maybe they're just getting in. One was someone just going to cooking school and wanted to know what kind of thing to look for. Or actually the question was, what's the best thing to buy? The answer to that is, I don't know. It depends on you. It depends on what's more comfortable. The comfort is really what's more important. It's the best part of it. The most important part of a knife isn't so much this, it's this. How does it feel in your hand? So in that case, everyone's different. The second most important part is the edge. You do want to make sure that you have a sharp knife. A dull knife is going to make for a very bad day, and it's very dangerous to have a duller knife. So I'll just go over what I have and what I tend to use more often. This right here is what we call a Western style. It's a Japanese blade with a Western handle. This has kind of become my go-to lately for chef's knife style purposes. One thing on a chef's knife is the blade shape. If you look, this is a Western knife. It's a German knife. If you just look at the profile on the blades, this one, the German one, has a more gradual, or I don't know what's the word for that, steep belly to it than this one, being the curve. This lets me go up higher when I'm trying to come down. With the Western style with the Japanese blade, because the angle goes out further, I can come up higher when I'm trying to cut an onion. So I can cut a larger onion with this. This one I can't go quite as high with it. I find this handle right here to be very nice for long-term use. 8 to 10 hours of cutting. I didn't get very much fatigue with it. But what I didn't like about it on a daily basis at home is this bolster on this is very thick, where this doesn't have that, so I can get my finger closer to the handle, giving me more blade space to work with. Where this, I'm kind of holding it like, that little bit of space makes a big difference as to the way it feels for me. Another thing to look at is this handle. You want to make sure that the space between the handle and the end of the blade is ample enough for you not to bang your hand when you go in to chop. Some people use slicing knives where it's a very thinner, or I don't know what thin's a word for it, but this right here, this area is a lot thinner. So what you have is your knuckle hitting the cutting board every time you come down when you're doing a roll chop. Another thing to think about with German versus Japanese is those are the two bigger styles out there for knife, or for a chef's knife nowadays. The hardness on what they call the Rockwell scale, it's a scale they use to measure the hardness of metals. On most German steel, which this is AUS 10 German steel, don't know what the AUS 10 means, but it's hard stuff. It's a 57. It's hard, but it's malleable. So what'll happen is it'll roll instead of chip. Japanese blade this is a 60 on the Rockwell scale. It's also 64 layers of Damascus steel. So you get this, it's a pretty blade, you get this nice little flowery pattern in it. But it's harder. It's not as hard as, say, some of the other ones are 63, 64. Those are very, very hard and very hard to sharpen. The softer the metal, the easier it is to sharpen, but the more often it'll have to be sharpened. It's kind of a give and take there. And by sharpen, I don't mean using a honing rod. This is not a sharpener, this is a honing rod. When you have a blade, especially the German knives, it happens very easy with them. The bevel comes down like this, and after you use them, it'll start to bend a little bit either way. What this is, and you see people on TV doing this thing really quick, you're not sharpening a knife. You're getting that wave, kind of that bend out of it, and getting it straight, which does make it sharper, but it's not actually putting on a new edge. You're just straightening the edge. Most of your German knives, your Wusthof, Henkel's, which those are kind of your two more popular brands, the blade is sharpened down on this to 15 degrees, which is sharp. Again, 20 years I've used this, I have zero complaints. Japanese blades are usually sharpened down. This is between 9 and 11 degrees. So it's a much steeper edge, which makes it look smaller if you're just looking at the profile of the edge, but it's a lot sharper. And yet they'll cut a tomato paper thin. When you look at the thickness of the spine, the German knife is much thicker than the Japanese knife. And that being, again, maybe that's because it's a 57. I don't know why. It's the design, maybe it's the way they weight them, or why the way they're weighted. I know with this, I can feel a lot more weight in the handle than this. The weight seems to be kind of balanced. It's balanced kind of right at the handle, where it's not going to, you're controlling the knife isn't controlling you. Where this, to me, I can feel the handle's a lot heavier. So I do, you know, when you're doing your downstroke for your slicing or chopping, it's kind of giving you an assist, if you will. This is doing pretty much exactly what I want it to do, which to me is the way I want to control the knife, not the other way around. The next style I wanted to talk about was the Sentoku. It's gotten extremely popular, and this is Miyabi's Mizu line. It's basically a SG2 core powdered steel with stainless surround. It's kind of like a sandwich. They put the SG2 in the middle and wrap it in the stainless. You can kind of see the line along the edge, and that is supposed to be designed so that it stops food from sticking so much to it, to give you a little bit more lubrication. It made me laugh too. These are generally shorter than the German knife, blade to blade even. This is an 8-inch chef's knife. This is the 7-inch Sentoku, I believe. This one at least is 63 Rockwell, so it's harder than the Western style. This is the Miyabi from the Fusion line. This is the, which Fusion being Western handle, Japanese blade. And this is the Miyabi from the Mizu line. There's also an Artisan line, which is the same blade, just a different handle. That handle has a little bit more of a fatter body in the middle to kind of help you palm it. I didn't find it comfortable. This is a D-shaped handle, which the D kind of fits inside of this line right here, which I find extremely comfortable. And I can, when I do my pinch grip, get right up against the handle. So to me, this is perfect. I can basically, it's almost becomes an extension of you, much more than anything else I've used. And when it comes down to the belly on it, this angle right here, it's shorter, but the belly goes down more than the chef knives do, and that gives me even more leverage when I'm trying to cut something fat like a onion. So if you look, when you're doing your sliding thing, you can rock it more. You know, the belly's kind of like right center of the blade. So if you just set it flat, you can kind of see light coming through either end of it. That gives you, or me at least, an easier rocking motion. So if I'm doing garlic or an herb and I just want to get that rock chop, this is perfect for that, for me. Along with the slicing ability, because it's a fat or a wider edge, it's a thin blade. If you're slicing fish or meat or something like that, this really, for me, is a knife that can do anything. And despite it being a little shorter, typically I like a longer blade. On that note, this is what they call a Kiritsuki. In Japan, this is the knife that you have to earn the privilege to use. It's a 9.5-inch blade, this one. You can buy them shorter, you can buy them longer, just like any of the other ones. You can buy a 10-inch or a 9-inch chef's knife. You can buy a 6-inch chef's knife if you would rather something shorter and easier to use. You can buy a 9.5-inch or 9-inch Sentoku. In fact, you can buy all these knives in any size you want. That's a 9-inch Sentoku. That's a 6-inch Sentoku. You're not reserved to just the standard 8-inch size for a chef's knife. They do sell them in 6 inches if you need something smaller, or if you have smaller hands, or you just don't want to carry or use something that big if you feel uncomfortable. There's a 9-inch if you want more slicing space, if you will. And then there's something like this. It's 9.5 inches. I've seen them in 8. I don't know if they come any bigger. I think they do come in 12, which it's kind of like the old Tantos. It's thinner. I think it's a thinner spine than what's on the other Mizu lines, but this is the same thing. It's a 63-inch Rockwell, 63 on the Rockwell scale, It is SG2 powdered steel in the middle, clad with stainless, and it's hammered finish, all to help reduce friction. And a thing with this is more made for that typical what you see on some of the Japanese cooking shows where they chop. That's for your push and pull chops, not for your rock. You can rock it, but you're kind of limited because of the way that point is as to how high you can go comfortably. Enough to do most of your daily needs, but if you do have a larger onion or something, I would still go for the Sentoku before I went for this. For slicing though, this is a dream. This will slice just about anything you want, including human, very, very easily. It is just like the others. It's sharpened down to 9 degrees, and you can really, on this one, you can really tell. The handle again is the D-shaped handle, just like any other Japanese knife. But so yeah, this it's a piece of art if you ask me. But to answer the question directly, if I was going to tell someone what to get as their first chef's knife, I would tell them to first look at the Western style or fusion style knives with the Japanese blade and the Western handle. You kind of tend to get the best of both worlds there. They do seem, at least this one and most of the ones I've looked at, seem to be more in line with that typical Western style of cooking that we all do, where you're the rock chop and that kind of thing, with the comfort of a German handle. That'd be the first of them to look at. If from there they find that they're liking the Western style more, then yeah, maybe go ahead and look at a Western edge or a German edge and see what is more comfortable, what weight is better for you, and just take it from there. It all comes down to you have to use it, not me, not anyone else. You have to be comfortable with it. It's your safety here, not mine. I don't care who you talk to. No one's an expert on what knife anyone else should use. Some of us may know a little more than others, but that doesn't mean that we can tell you what to buy. So you have to decide that for yourself. But those are just a few things to look at to kind of help you make a decision. Anyway, I hope that helped a little bit. Good luck.